And so, Bill, what works? I mean, and what works well?
Well, what works well, I have to listen. I have to count on that from uh, hearing from people with autism themselves. I mean, I think what works well is to realize that that autistic people with autism may communicate in their own ways. It could be verbally, it could be by movement, it could be by symbols. There are a variety of ways of communication. It may be difficult for them to do a intense kind of eyeball to eyeball conversation, and therefore uh, you got to be sensitive, I think, to the space that you're in, and also giving people with autism plenty of choice about how your conversation or your presence with them might go. So you don't want to overwhelm people, and you want to give them plenty of time to kind of process questions and think through stuff. If autism, at one part of autism is having trouble processing all kinds of stimuli and thoughts at once, then what we would learn from that is to go slowly and carefully, and that's not bad advice for everybody else too. We who tend to kind of want grief to happen too fast.
So maybe you can think of an example from your experience where you've worked with someone with autism, and you've done just that. And what, from drawing on that experience, what did that conversation sound or look like? I mean, what might you share with us that we can sort of take as a really good example of what you're talking about here? I mean, and change the names and all the rest, but
Right.
it would be very interesting to have a kind of a real world example.
I think it would be, let's say, someone who maybe has come to a service. A person with autism has come to a service, and if I know them well, I'm thinking of people who may need a real choice about where to sit and what kind of supports might be there. And then for me to understand that that person may communicate their emotions in a variety of movements. It can be, things that we see as different, such as rocking in my chair, like I'm doing right now. But knowing that that's a way for a person of calming themselves, kind of a ritualistic movement that some of us, the rest of us, might use rosary beads or sit in prayer or something like that. And then I just think the important thing is saying you care, you're willing to listen in whatever way, and just to go slowly with people, and to say whatever, like we say to other people who are in grief and loss, whatever you feel is okay. You do not have to say, be any one particular thing, or be feeling any one particular thing.
So with this in mind, what do you think is the most important thing that needs to change in faith communities with regard to autism, to really understand, embrace, and help people with autism?
Well, I think the first most important thing is listening. Listening to them, listening to people who have autism, listen to people who are close to them, either family or supporters or caregivers, and saying and getting to know a person so that they begin to trust you, and so that you're familiar, and not just you as a clergy person, but some other people in your congregation, so that if you as a pastor, you're up leading the service, then there are other people an individual may know and feel comfortable with, and then work with them and give them choices about the best ways to participate, about the ways that they would feel most comfortable participating. I've talked with people with autism, for instance, who prefer to sit right up front, because in sitting in the back, they have all these heads in front of them, and that becomes too much stimulus about that. But right up front, we've talked to I know people with autism for whom the rituals are really important of a service. And so particularly for some faith communities where ritual is really important. You might have a person, if a pastor decides to do something different one day, you may get a, hey, wait a minute, we did that wrong, because those are the kinds of things that bring a sense of security and stableness for lots of folks, but I think in particular there. And I think most important, in the world of autism, in education, they talk about the hidden curriculum of any social setting, like a school, a classroom, an organization. What are the kind of unwritten, unvoiced expectations about behavior and what you do socially to fit in? And the most normal way I can think about saying that is, think about if you are a particular one faith tradition and you go to another faith tradition and to one of their worship services that's radically different from what you've been part of, then you're wondering, how do I fit in? What do I do? When do I do it? Where? What's going on here? And what we often assume is that people can just easily pick that stuff up going in. But really, for a lot of us, we grew up and we had lots of opportunity to practice and to learn kind of what was expected in the faith communities that we're part of. So rather than just maybe help a person to learn make explicit what's implicit, make concrete what is not so concrete, because that makes it easier for a person with autism, the ones I know at least, to be able to deal with something concretely and directly.